Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Time for Art. We are here today with a special holiday edition painting. We're very excited. My name's Hershey. I am your host today. And as always, we have the lovely Allison Crary, our resident artist. Go ahead and say hi, Allison.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going so well. Very excited to get to do this week before Christmas. And
as people out here on the West Coast are really excited to paint trees that have snow on them. We don't see those very often, so we're very excited.
We haven't had snow yet.
And today is a Wednesday paint day, so we're super excited about that. We have a big show today. We've got this painting today is going to require lots of drying time. Allison's going to show us. She's got swap out so you can see not in real time kind of how the stages she does. So as always, if you'd like to follow along and try to keep up with Allison, good luck and do your best. But if you want to just kind of start start the painting and then finish it later after you've watched this, you're welcome to go to our Facebook and our YouTube. You'll find the second this live stream is over, you'll find all of the videos there, or the video there to step by step. But before we go on, I don't want to forget what we did on Monday. I loved what we did on Monday. Mondays, as you guys know, is a journal day. So we go to our art journals, our Time for Art journals that you get in every kit. And Allison, tell us about our project on that day.
Sure. What we did was we drew this dove, and there was no transfer for it. We walked through the steps and figured it out and drew from life. Actually, we drew from this holiday card I got. That was the inspiration. And this inspiration also had this kind of filigree texture that filled the shape of the dove. And so we did kind of a macrocosm, microcosm project where the shape of the dove implied peace, and woven into the filigree were items that brought us peace. So I chose my art journal, some pieces of jewelry that I wear that are family heirlooms that bring us peace, and I have a paint brush and a pencil because drawing and painting bring me peace.
So that if now we have the really cool option of flipping through our journals and seeing just like the progression of everything from week to week. And this last one was freehand drawing, and they turned out great. So thank you everybody who uploaded to Facebook. We appreciate that. And let's get started. Al, tell us about, let's start with the materials. What are we going to use today?
Certainly. So there's no outline or transfer for this. We're gonna draw everything ourselves. This is our inspiration piece. This is our reference today. And I'm using these three colors. I'm using our yellow, our cobalt blue, and our rose madder, and our white. We do most of the painting actually with the big brush. We're going to have our pencils and our canvas panel, our painter's palettes and our canvas panel. So we'll get started from here.
Let's do it.
All right. So the special trick with how you make the paint glow in this kind of dark winter sunset. I love a winter sunset. We usually think of the beach, or we think of something warm. When we think of a sunset, this undoes that. And we get these really rich, beautiful winter sunsets. So to do that, we start by painting our entire background kind of this indigo color. So I've got some red, and you need a lot of this because you're going to paint your background with it. So a generous kind of double dose of red, and even more generous kind of triple dose of cobalt blue. I'm going to get these going, kind of see what I get.
All right. Cool. I love that blue.
I call it kind of an indigo blue.
Mm-hmm. I like to, there's a couple darker blues that come in the kit, but I love making my colors myself.
Exactly. And so we provide these, and so it's this kind of purpley blue, but certainly more blue than purple. And actually I'm going to add a drop of white, a small kind of half drop of white, because colors come out very saturated from the tube. And I'm going to desaturate this a little bit, and it's with this tint of white, it's just going to look a little bit more like what it is and not like an oversaturated you think about it, if you ever use food coloring, it comes out so dark and so concentrated, and you need to mix it with something for it to look like what it's supposed to look like. Paint sometimes works the same way. And so I add just a little bit of white so that it looks a little bit more like what it is. So, okay, I got plenty of it. I'm going to add some water to kind of break up the paint itself. And we're going to rigorously paint the background this kind of indigo blue. Sometimes I call it blurple. I coined that term with friends.
Yeah, they say that's is that an Allison Prairie original?
Yeah, we're like blue purple, definitely blurple. And I actually always kind of loved this color. It's not quite Barney purple.
I'm a purple fan. I like all shades of purple. I like it all.
I've heard in real estate, Hershey's also a realtor, but so call me crazy, that purple is actually in homes a very divisive color. Like if you paint a room purple.
Really? Well, you know what? It's so funny. I never thought of painting a room purple. You know, I'm actually more thinking of, if I'm being totally honest, we hit on this on Wednesday, the royal family. Royal purple, purple.
Yeah.
You know, I'm obsessed.
Hershey's on the Royals right now.
Yep.
How's the Queen's health?
You know, no news, which doesn't mean anything because they're very mum all the time about that stuff anyways. So
yeah,
I guess they're going ahead with Christmas. It's Sandringham.
Okay. So well wishes for the Queen.
Yes.
All right. So this is a solid. And if you look, this is a little streaky. We're going to paint over this, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. So good start. You painted your whole canvas is kind of indigo color or blurple.
Yes.
Oh, look, it's a swap. Nice and dry. We're going to paint on this. All right.
Okie dokie.
And so all we're going to worry about at this point is kind of where the horizon goes. All right. So I've got this kind of really subtle hill. So this kind of goes a little uphill here. If you can see that. You can kind of see my line there. Not much. Yeah. One could argue it's barely going uphill. That's kind of how that goes.
Is that snowman going to be walking uphill in the snow?
I think, it's both ways. He's going to get warm, he's going to work up and then he's going to melt. So hopefully he stays put. So, all right. Then what we're going to mix is kind of an orange. And just because I got a little bit of blurple into my first well, I'm going to kind of let that dry before I use it. So always with orange, not all colors are created equal. So to get equal parts yellow and red, you need considerably less yellow than red because they're not the same concentration. So to get kind of a normal orange, you need 2/3 yellow, 1/3 red.
Right.
I'm kind of like a lot of paint into each one of those. I'm going to start by mixing my red. This is Rose Madder, so it's kind of a pinky red. And that's kind of a good start. Right there.
I would never have guessed that it's a dark background that produces that glow. I never would have guessed.
How you get it to glow. And not to be cheesy, but I think when you get paint to glow, you're kind of making it sing. I think it's one of the great magic tricks.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and for those of you watching at home, I don't want you to think I just was wearing something crazy. This is I wore special holiday vest just for the holiday painting we're doing.
Isn't that fantastic? Doesn't he look so dapper? All right, so I'm going to start with our kind of orangey color first. And if you notice, these are lighter than what we have here, but not especially light. When we go in for a second coat, we're going to get even lighter. That's how this painting works. We're starting with our darkest, most saturated colors, and we're going to work our way up from there. So kind of on, see how it's already glowing?
Yep.
On our horizon line, that's slightly uphill. We're going to paint in this one. And I'd say the important thing here is to make sure you get all the way across. It's not fun to have to come back in and fill in the holes on the edge of your painting after you've got this really beautiful transition.
Yeah, no, it's not.
All right, and then we're going to immediately work in our redder color up here. And that's just an easy transition where we massage our red tone into our orange tone. Just like that. I'm being sloppy and getting our reference kind of painty to go back in and kind of hit these areas. And we're going to go over this again because, like I said, this takes a lot of drying.
Did both of those colors that you mixed have the covering white in it?
A touch, and we're going to add even more in a second, but we're going to start with this. And then just up here on this line, I'm just going to like kind of massage in some water for now, and then just kind of drift that tone right up into here. So we have our orange color that I'm just going to kind of put in one more stroke like that. And then I'm going to go ahead, for demonstration's sake, get out my hairdryer and dry this guy because
and we were discussing before we went live today that the hair dryer is it's a special key for hairstylists and acrylic painters. Look at that. I've taken my paintings into the bathroom to finish them via blow dryers so many times.
So I just gave it kind of a drying head start. Actually now I'm going to take our cobalt blue, just like this, and maybe a speck of red. So I'm probably actually going to take it just from our kind of red mixture that we mixed up before. So it doesn't need too much. And kind of a speck, a twinge, a touch of white. So I put my kind of half drop of white there, and I just took some on my brush, and I'm going to mix that in.
Yeah.
And still a little too blue. I kind of want it. I might need to actually add a touch of red. There we go. That's what I want. Just like that. Got it?
Yep, got it.
And I am going to start painting in our ground, our horizon. So that kind of comes in like this. Just like that. And then we're going to put the same thing, actually, if you start in this corner, up in here. So this is going to kind of drift into our next dry. Red area.
Great. You know, everyone, Allison and I know very well, a viewer from at home right now, a subscriber, Julie Crary, who's here with us every single time we go live. She was just commenting on how a hair dryer is something that she brings out with her painting supplies when she's ready to paint. She includes the hair dryer with her. That's how important it is for her. So thank you, Julie. Good to see you. Can't wait to see what you do today.
Absolutely. And I just want to call out Julie Crary for perfect attendance.
100, that's exactly right. Perfect.
Perfect attendance. Okay, so I just want to review here what we have. We started, we drew in our kind of horizon line. Okay. And we started with our orange tint and our red tint. We dried those just to get things going. And we've added now our blue tint to the top up here and to the bottom. So we've got this going on just like that. I'm going to go ahead and dry it again, even though we're not going to go into these areas. And then we'll second coat these two areas. And then I got to swap. So
great. Great.
A quick.
So are you guys noticing how I guess Zoom is automatically dimming the noise of the hairdryer? I can't hear it very well. Does anyone else notice that? Do you notice that, Al?
I can't hear anything because it's the hairdryer. Yeah. But so good. We'll see how that gets received in the recording.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. All right. So I still have some orange left, and I'm going to go ahead and mix a little more red. And the next two steps, I want these two to be considerably lighter. So I've added that much more white to my red. So this is this kind of really pinky, almost a carnation pink tone. All right. And then this is this kind of mango peach.
Oh yeah, that's turning out beautiful. Yes.
Then here comes some magic. Look at how this glows. Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't a joke, no.
The paint is singing. It's singing.
It's singing. Can you hear it? And we cross into the pinky tones. And some of what you already have there kind of.
Yeah, blends.
And I'm actually going to add another drop of red to this.
Wow, that's really cool.
To kind of hit that top transition.
Those transitioning sunsets they're very easy to do after you've watched Allison do them a couple times, and they have transformed some of my paintings.
Right?
Yep.
And exciting sky is always in vogue. And then I'm going to do the same thing here where you kind of blend this to nothing with some water. So I'm just moving the existing paint on my canvas panel into nothing. And then I still have some blue in my palette. If not, you remember how we mixed it.
Yes.
Some white to my existing blue. And I'm going to blend in some of these tones into here. And
that sky is glowing.
Isn't it? The paint is singing.
Paint is singing.
One of my college roommates had this super cool poster, and it was like a candle getting blown out, and it was this really sort of atmospheric. You saw the kind of like smoke coming off of it.
Yeah.
That art is making silence speak.
Ooh.
And I've tried to find it, and I've tried to quote it, and I can't. So But I love the gif. I love it.
I'm gonna look for it, and if after a hearty look for it, I can't find it, I'm just going to attribute that quote to you, Allison Crary.
There you go. It can go on our t-shirts.
Yep.
Next to sharpen your brush. All right, so here we go. We've put in our sunset.
Yes.
We've added our blues. We've added, we've let it dry and we've reinforced. So I've added our blues to our drier areas. And we have this really beautiful transitioning winter
Yeah.
sunset. And so I like this because it's kind of a hot and cold. It's kind of a fire and ice painting because
Very much.
you've got this really intense glowing sunset and then these really icy figures in the foreground. And I think it's just a really beautiful, I'm looking at this. I don't like how this is drying. It's just kind of looking kind of unfinished in this corner. As it dries, because acrylic paint always dries both darker, but also kind of streakier and more translucent, you'll see kind of where you need more. And this is dried a little bit, so I hit that area again. And this stage is done. I'm going to go ahead and swap it for this one that I've already got prepared. So let this guy dry, make adjustments, things like that.
Yep.
And we're going to go ahead and swap it for this one that I already have dry.
Way to go.
All right. So the important things I want to add here, I've got these few little trees kind of in the background. And this is a really implied kind of a horizon line where you don't really know where it begins and ends. And that's kind of the mystery of the painting.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of draw in these tree shapes that I want. And then I'm going to draw in, I've got two clouds. One comes out kind of like this and back in. This one doesn't come quite as far. Just like that. And then we're going to draw in our tree. So we're going to drop a line right down the middle. I started, I don't know, maybe a centimeter or a dime's width from the top, and I'm going to end about a quarter's width from the bottom. And go ahead and pick
This painting has a lot of depth to it.
It does, doesn't it? So this is super in the foreground and super in the background.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to kind of draw in our tree. It's got this kind of, I don't know, triangle part on top. And then this is one of those fir trees that kind of has a, it has branches and then it like kind of quits for a while and then has more branches.
Like the layered branches.
Yeah. And then, but there's like, there's trunk sort of exposed.
Yeah.
Between them. And so these kind of look like feathers or mop heads that kind of fall.
Yeah,
So
I get that. I get the mop.
a little bit of a gap and then drawing around underneath, a little bit of a gap. I'm hoping you can see this.
We can see it really well.
Oh, good. Okay. So I'm
And your mop head description was spot on.
Oh, good. I don't clean it very often. So she does. Her she doesn't need as a pin. I'm not so into it. And so if I'd gotten it wrong, it would have come honestly. Mop head isn't my thing. So this kind of comes around this way. Just like this. And on this last one, there's kind of some branches that sort of come forward, just like this. And I made
it a super easy tree, Allison. There's no trunk to worry about at the bottom. There's no leaf definition. This is going to be so easy to paint.
Definitely. And it's even easier to paint in. The only frustrating part is that it is, it has to dry a lot of times. All right. So we're gonna mix up the green that goes inside, and it's gotta be this kind of dark sort of silhouetted green that kind of, because the sunset's behind it, it's not quite dark,
Right.
but it's darker. And so we're gonna mix that up. And the way we're gonna mix that is we're gonna take out our cobalt blue. We're gonna take out about half and half so that it's actually more blue than yellow by a lot. Give that a mix. So we've got a pretty good looking green here. Kind of a jungle green.
You said more blue, right?
More blue, but not like
Not too much.
240.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's our green. And then we're actually going to add its complement, which is red. And maybe let's call that a drop. And that's going to neutralize our green.
So cool.
And not only make it darker, but kind of more dull. And that's going to be our green. And here's what is either both frustrating or rewarding about this. You don't need any depth to this green. You want it silhouetted. We want this to be kind of a silhouette where the paint sits on top.
Yeah.
Take a few coats. So we're going at it. We're filling in our green. I'm using my big brush because I want to get some of these areas in. And I'm going for consistency. And I'm filling this one next. And the reason we did our entire background first is so that it peeks through our trees. And if you look, I've got some like kind of deliberate branches on here. We'll add that at the end. All right, so don't worry too much about getting in individual branches. We'll catch those in the end.
I love this tree already.
It's a good tree, right?
Yeah, and the branches are heavy with the snow. I love that effect. I think it's the coolest.
Don't you feel the heaviness of the snow on these branches?
Yes, yes, I do. Especially even in the background, the way those look like snow flow. Was it they flows when they like? You know what I mean? Like all that. I love it.
Hershey's seen snow at least twice.
Yeah, I hated it both times.
So he knows.
Yeah.
All right. So if you look, I've got this in. I'm just going to kind of clean this up for consistency. When I say I'm cleaning it up, I'm flattening out kind of the peaks and valleys of my paint coat.
What does that mean? Like where the paint's thick?
Yeah. So where it looks like especially wet, and then like I could use some more. I want this
Yeah.
as possible. Just like this.
For those of you at home that if you're waiting for your paint to dry and you want to follow along and learn this technique with Allison, switch over to your art journal really quick and just draw a tree and go along with her. You'll be able to wait for your paint to dry and then you'll have practiced this tree.
I think that's such a good idea. And that's a really good example of your art journal. Does not have to be this beautiful finished thing that every painting, every piece is a finished work of art. How annoying if that's how we express ourselves, that everything had to be.
How annoying would that be?
Yeah, not our brand.
Or something we can pull off either way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and paint in these kind of back trees in here and our clouds while this dries a little bit, and then I'll probably hit it with my hairdryer again.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take a little bit of white, and I still kind of have some of this kind of blue purple mixed up, but not enough. So I'm going to go ahead and mix myself a little more of that. So drop of blue, touch of red. I have some. That's the color I want. Yep. Touch more red, perfect. And so I'm just going to drop in some of these implied trees. And could you have done this first? Absolutely. Might have been helpful. Sure. I want this to dry. So I didn't.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't do that. Order of operations might say always work background to foreground. And we didn't this time, but in this instance, we have a really dark, opaque tree that we want in. And so I'm putting that one down first so that it dries first. Okay, so I kind of dropped in these sort of trees in the background. And then I'm going to add some white to that same mixture. And I'm going to paint in these clouds. I'm looking, that's a little white for my taste. I'd like these a little bit darker. So I'm
A little grayer.
A little grayer. Yes, exactly. We'll get there, but I want that to kind of stick out against. I want to arrive at that lighter tone.
Yeah.
The darker tones kind of peek through underneath, which is kind of the technique we keep using in this painting, which is where we're working our way up from dark to light. And I'm going to do the same thing down here, just like that. So that looks good. And then at the same time, I've got my smaller brush here. I am going to sort of just kind of paint in some of the highlights of the ground. So I did that by these 3 strokes of my whitish tone, certainly not pure white.
Right.
And then I'm going to do the technique where I put the paint down. And then I'm going to take a brush with some water on it. In this case, our big brush. And I'm going to move the paint out from there. And again, could this have been easier had we done this first before we painted our big tree?
Who knows?
Well, yeah, who knows? Or I'm going to go ahead and say yes. The reason we're working out of order is because this is going to take a few coats. And if we
when you're painting on your own, you're not going to wait and sit and wait for something to dry. You're going to go to a next step. You are.
That's the thing. So we're doing this a little on our own terms today. All right, so let's just take a look here. We have our tree blocked in place, drying. At this point on mine, it's kind of tacky. I'd say it's half wet, half dry.
Yeah.
And we took our kind of blue purple tone and kind of blocked in these trees that are in the background, and they're bluer and milkier because they're far away. And that's called atmospheric perspective. When it blurs and gets bluer in the background, that's atmospheric perspective. Okay. And we went ahead and painted in our clouds. And it's this whiter tone of our blue purple blurple that we've been working with. And that sits right on top of our sunset. And then we took that same tone and I gave this 4 streaks of paint, kind of let it sort of adhere to the canvas, and then blurred that tone with with some water to kind of just show sort of banks of snow kind of rippling. I don't know that they're little hills, but it's just kind of the snow ebbing and flowing on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and hair dryer, especially my tree.
I'm so impressed with the sound quality on Zoom right now.
All right, so this is pretty dry now for the most part, and we're gonna second coat our tree with green. Don't worry too much about it.
Are you using the same green?
Same green. I mixed enough of it. You
Okay,
didn't make
cool.
enough of it. No big deal.
I
Here's
did.
what it was. I would say it's 60-40, 60% blue, 40% yellow, which means it will be very much mostly blue because
Not all colors are created equal.
all colors are created equal, especially yellow, always the weakest of the weakest link. And then you add some red, which is the complement to green, which will make it darker and deeper and more grayed. It's a very natural way to make gray. And we want it to be more green than red. We don't want it to be more red than green. And in the theory, you can get to black these ways because
By adding more and more colors.
well, just by neutralizing exactly against the color wheel.
Okay.
So if it's equal parts opposites, theoretically you can get to black. Again, not all colors are created equal, and it's different. It's different components and pigments that get us there. And I've gotten pretty close at times. If I had to make black, I could get you pretty close. But in the meantime, we do get this really nice deep forest green. All right, so I like that. I'm actually, though that got me this far, I'm going to mix a little bit more to do some of these kind of details that come off of it. So get out our blue. Get out some yellow. Mix that guy up. We have our kind of jungle green.
I love these acrylic paints, you know, so much more better than, for me anyways, better than the watercolor, because you've added white to change the saturation of a color. You've added water to change how it hits the canvas. You've added other colors, and that feels like it's not something you can always pull off with other paint.
Paint is a great way to learn all the things. Watercolor can be fabulous and a lot of fun, and it's a lot more high stakes. It's a lot more every stroke kind of counts because you can't really paint over it. And it's less passes, if that makes sense, because you're kind of filling the tooth of the paper. And so I say, if you're learning to paint, the best way to learn is with acrylic paint, and then definitely by all means break into all the different paints, see what you like. Okay, so I want to get into these kind of, I don't know, fingery individual fronds on my pine tree. So I'm just doing some downward kind of individual strokes to kind of sort of change, you know, so make the contour a little bit more variegated.
And those are the bottom tips is where you're adding that color.
On the bottom, yeah, I'm starting kind of, so if these are mop heads, again, I hear that's what they look like.
Yeah.
I've actually gotten out a mop and
right.
But yeah, so just kind of, yeah, I'm going on the underside of things. Yeah. And I'm just kind of varying in stroke width and length with this edge.
I really enjoy how the perspective of the light behind it. We're not making the tree like there's a light in front of it. The light's behind it.
The light's behind it. And The snow kind of takes on its own sort of personality. It kind of glows beyond. And
Yeah.
it's not the darkest sunset. So some sunsets where you're completely kind of eclipsed and it's black.
Yeah.
This is 20 minutes before that. This is yeah. This is when everything kind of is a darker
Version of itself. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All right. So I've varied up my contours of my bottom tree. And taking a look at it, this one could use a few more little wisps. Same thing here. All right. I'm going to go back in. And now that this is dry, my kind of back trees, I'm going to kind of see where that needs a little bit. I'm going to clean that up because it's kind of, where is it kind of hairy and kind of unfinished with a slightly lighter tone. So I'm going to kind of come back in here, fill in some of that.
That lighter tone will create even more depth.
Even more depth. I really like to work kind of lighter and lighter as you go. Not every painting calls for that, but that's one of my favorite ways to work. You get this really beautiful glow.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get out my white with kind of the same tone. And then actually, it looks like I kind of took that over here. So this is just some of that tone that I'm kind of putting kind of a watery wash over this area. And then I'm going to take out my white, drop in my white. So I want a lighter version of this. So I'm working with a blue blurple that I already have. And if it comes out the same tone or darker, I don't want it to add more white. And you don't really know that necessarily until, perfect, it's exactly the color I want. So this is definitely probably a stage and a half or a step and a half lighter. With
Okay.
Clouds.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna paint in, it glows, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna hit this kind of lighter tone here. And then I did some kind of more thoughtful kind of strokes on top here. And I just want to kind of just show, I took a little bit of time with my detail brush and just made some soft, really intentional, small strokes.
Looks so cool.
Cloud a really defined contour. All right, same thing, true for down here. So where I had our bigger strokes before that were kind of dividing these snowbanks. I'm gonna put my even lighter tone now on top of these. And make sure I got it all the way to the edge, because that's kind of amateur hour, is if there's this kind of halo around your thing. You want to finish the stroke you were making. It's kind of always be aware of that you're painting the whole painting.
Yeah.
That it doesn't sort of taper off. And if you do it, no big deal. We paint all the time here.
Yeah, right. We'll fix it.
We'll fix it, or we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just taking the water again and just kind of blurring this edge. Just like this. For our snowbanks.
Allison, someone at home, I just wanted to note this because, Allison and I are, we're trying new stuff every week and seeing what we like. And somebody at home just wrote in and said that they really appreciate having the finished product next to the art in progress so that they can kind of see where we're headed.
Oh, I'm glad that's appreciated. Yeah, with this vertical format, it works really well. It's a little bit more difficult with the horizontal format because we'd have to go that much wider. But for this vertical,
Right.
format, it works out really well.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've got this the way I want it. I've highlighted sort of my snowbanks. I popped in the kind of lighter tone in the clouds. And I'm going to go ahead and dry this guy. Again.
While she's doing that, I want to show you guys the pitfalls of not waiting till it's dry, which is something I did as I was trying to keep up with Allison. And what happened was the background is bleeding through my sunset. So, you know, you think you're saving time by waiting for it to not waiting for it to dry. You're not. You're not. All right.
All right, so Hershey, hold that back up again. I think you were making a really good point.
Yeah. Let me see it where my green screen is kind of itchy. But do you see how the blue is bleeding through my sunset?
And that's, so what I would say is what you did is fine. Just let the whole thing dry really nicely now and then go right back over it and you'll get there. So it's, yeah, you can only do it in so many, it's unfortunately, there is not a quicker way around.
Yeah, there isn't. There just isn't.
This painting works on letting it dry over and over again. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and draw on our snowman. And good news, I think everybody's probably drawn a snowman before.
I would agree. I would agree.
I mean, even if you've never, at some point, life has asked you to draw on a snowman, and this is the most basic of snowman.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, for me in particular, this is probably going to be the best snowman I've ever drawn.
Well, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm dropping my snowman right here, which is about like 2 fingers over from this branch, probably 3 or 4 fingers over from the edge.
Yeah.
That's the first circle, kind of the size of a big dime, like we said, like the play money dime.
Yeah.
The next one is kind of a big quarter. I'd say the third one's kind of a silver dollar. And this is a slightly different position than I've got it in on our original. Just like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and kind of with a whiter version of this blue, which I kind of have mixed up from making this. I'm just going to go ahead and do a white layer. I'm not doing the face yet. I'm not worried about it. Paint in a white. Fill in our snowman. So is this a complicated painting? No. Does it require patience? Yes.
Yeah, and is it timely because we have Christmas coming up and lots of holiday celebrations, depending on what your traditions are. And,
yeah,
you know, I think the snowman is like quintessential holiday iconography.
Yes, I would agree. And then I would also say that a lot of your Christmas decorations or holiday decorations, you have to put them away come
Yeah.
This one you can keep up. This is just kind of a 'tis the season. Like this is
it is. Yeah, I mean, you definitely, if you live in the snow, you definitely build snowmen after Christmas. Yeah, after that.
You will have to this year if you're in Chicago because we haven't any snow yet.
Ooh, you haven't?
No, and no one misses it. Okay, so I'm also going to make this area a little bit whiter because it dried and it's a little bit darker. Just like that. And then the way I'm going to suggest, I did it a little bit differently when I started. The way I'm going to suggest doing these big, heavy piles of snow on top of our tree here is just with a light tone, without a lot of paint on your brush, with the same color that we used for our snowman and for our clouds. I'm going to say, I'm just going to kind of block in where I want the snow. So it's on top of our mop heads.
Yes.
Coming around this way. Certainly not, if it kicks up some green, not the end of the world. So
this is a multi-coat process.
Yeah, we're just going to kind of decide sort of painting in these kind of planes of paint where I drew them out before and I had a hard time seeing them. So I can only imagine if you were trying to follow along how frustrating. So we're just gonna kind of block them in with this kind of, it doesn't really matter how white or how blue this is. We're just gonna kind of blur in these areas that we're eventually going to render.
And the finished product looks like it's, you know, with the shading and whatnot, it looks so professional. And the step-by-step where you just start with blocking in, that's so easy to follow.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's one of these things where if you're kind of honest with the process, like, okay, I know I want these areas to look a certain way. I'm just going to take my time to figure out kind of where I want them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just following along here, coming around this way. And then this one. So when we did kind of our little individual kind of stems coming off of that, this is kind of the opposite. These are just the tops of our kind of mop head.
And you're purposely using a dimmer blue or a dimmer white because that bright white will add that glare from the sunlight.
Exactly. And that'll be last. So I'm just kind of filling these in where they kind of go. Just like this. That way. All right. And so I'm going to check this. Did I miss any areas? I kind of want this to come over more. Something I check when I do something like this is I don't want them all to kind of line up with each other. Like I don't want it to look like a pattern. I don't want the kind of to make something look random can be very difficult. And so anything that's looking too perfectly stacked, I kind of want to try and undo.
And there's more snow that can be held by the sturdier branches at the bottom.
Exactly. Yes. So keep that in mind as well. And then I'm just going to take in just some water on my brush and then just kind of even out some of this. Like that. Just like this. So that's decently consistent at this point. We're going to leave it alone.
Looks wonderful.
I'm going to use my medium brush, but if you feel more comfortable with a smaller brush, use a smaller brush. And I'm going to take this same kind of blue purple kind of periwinkle with some white in it. It kind of lands there. And I'm going to kind of just work into that's still pretty wet snowman, this sort of, because it's backlit, dark side of my snowman. So that's over here. And if you look, there's this edge. This is called reflected light. So it's picking up a little bit of light on this side. So I'm just going to work into my snowman. This kind of periwinkle.
So cool.
Kind of how light hits every object. But you always have an area in shadow. And then on that shadow, you have a touch of reflected light because light bounces around the room. And I'm going to reinforce that a few times. So, okay, so I've kind of worked that in across my three kind of snowman sections. And then I'm going to kind of come back in with the same color and just hit sort of the middle a little bit darker. So we kind of bled out to the edges, and then I'm going to reinforce the center as the most dark area. Just like that. I'm going to add some white. Well, I'm just going to put some white down on the palette. Just for.
I love the way the palettes look at the end of a paint project. I love it.
Some people are super organized. I only have what I have to give, which is just going to be what it looks like. All right, so I added just some white to that, and I've got more white I can draw from. And I'm going to come over here from where we started, and I'm just going to kind of reinforce more consistently over the areas that I blocked in before.
And if a little of the first color shows through, that's totally fine.
That's
right?
the intention.
Yeah.
That's why we did it the first time. It'll look really nice that way. It gives it some depth. Coming around this way.
Allison, I'm finishing my first bottle of coloring white. Covering white.
Covering white.
Yeah.
It goes fast, doesn't it? That's why you need a big.
We use it for everything.
Yeah, we use it for everything.
You know how not all colors are created equal. I like the white adds so much like strength to the orange and the yellows.
Yes, yes, yes. You need a very robust white. And
some might say a covering white.
Some might even say a covering white. And so we use our covering white. We shopped a lot of whites.
And you get the average paint comes in like this is the kind of color you get with your kit, and this is the white.
Yeah,
to give you reference.
We don't mess around with our white. And so if you have a really robust white, there's a lot you can do. And we chose our paint for a lot of reasons. One, because there's so much variety that we can give you really cool different colors to play with every month. But then the white specifically wasn't up to our standards. And so we shopped for a really big, robust white to use, and we found the best one. And I love it so much. All right, so we've reinforced all of our paint layers, and I've very kind of intentionally left some of the underneath showing on some of these. Because it's beautiful. And I'm going to take that same color and kind of reinforce the lighter side of my snowman. Again, catch a little bit of the reflected light on this side.
Also, that's turning out really great.
Thank you.
Yes.
A little bit over here. I'm going to take that same technique where I get a little bit of water and kind of blur this edge with a little bit of water.
We're not ignoring the shadows underneath each of the ball for the snowman.
Right, yeah. I'm going to kind of take a dry brush and just kind of feather this edge. Just like this. All right. I like my snowman. I'm going to leave that alone for a minute. Now I'm going to take straight up white out of the tube.
Oof.
And I'm going to start kind of in the middle while I kind of get my game going here. And this is the very tops of the white. Of our snow on the trees. And so I'm going to kind of apply the paint, sort of let it adhere, and I'm going to blur it in a minute. So I'm going to kind of get a few areas going. So I'm just applying white paint to the tops of our snow banks, on the tops of our mop heads, of our trees. Again, can't believe I came up with that.
I can't either. And I love how you said, I was told that mop heads look like this.
Yeah. I think I've seen.
You've seen them in movies.
I've seen people, use mops. And there's that I think Jennifer Lawrence won an Academy Award for that mop movie where she comes up with the miracle mop or something. And the idea of watching someone clean was so boring to me. I didn't see the movie. I was like, oh, it's about a mop, pass. Like
hard pass. I don't clean in my regular life. I'm not going to pay $15 to watch someone clean. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I've kind of applied this white, and it's our big, thick covering white. And so we have a little bit more time to blur that because it's not going to dry on us right away.
Yeah.
Come back in with some water on this edge and blur that into what we had underneath. And you might have a really nice transition that doesn't require this step. Skip it.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Don't overwork it. You are looking at your painting. Actually, let's go right up here. Get it down here. Just like that.
I love this painting so much. It's easy, but it looks like you have the skills of a seasoned painter.
Well, and how do I put it? We all are seasoned painters. Everybody's an artist because they bring something that everyone who joins us brings something different to what we have to do, right? And so all I'm doing is kind of giving you the means to get there. And
a step by step, which is really cool.
Yeah, but you have it in you. It's just kind of, again, the trick with this one is starting with the dark.
Yeah. Which you wouldn't think was a, yeah.
So I'm just cleaning this up where I'd like the highlight of the white. And our backlit snowman, I don't want a whole lot lighter than this. I kind of want him to sort of look very sort of in the, not in the foreground, kind of back a little bit.
Yeah.
And kind of backlit by the snow. So, okay, I'm just going to hit a few more highlights in.
So by not using that white out of the tube on your snowman, it puts him behind the tree.
Yes.
Yep.
The tree's kind of in the foreground.
Yep.
Catching the light of it all. All right, I'm going to go ahead. Looks like my snowman's pretty dry. If not, I'll find out soon enough. I am going to draw in the coal eyes and the nose.
The corncob pipe and
yeah, I saw that. You can put anything you want on the snowman. You want to give him a Santa hat. You want him.
Yeah.
Anything you want. I dropped in, two kind of coals for the eyes. And a carrot nose. Just like that. And the way I made the coal for the eyes is our same green that we mixed ahead of time that we added some red to. I'm going to add even more red to and get it as close to kind of neutral, even Steven to get to our kind of faux black.
And that's red with green because they complement each other.
They complement each other.
And together they create a black.
Of sorts.
Yeah.
And I went a little too red with this. So how do I get back? I add some blue.
I was going to say you add some green, but you're right. We made the green.
We add some blue, we add some yellow, and we see what we get. And that's really close. I'm gonna tell you, but it's. And the reason I like to do this, again, a different painting, they might actually get out black, but then you've got like this blaring black on your page. And all of these are from the same colors we've been mixing from. It's got a real cohesion to it that even when we do, like the only two pieces or components of your painting that are going to be this color are these two coal eyes, but they're not going to stick out too much because they were made from the colors we've been using already super consistently. So there's our eyes. Drop those guys in there. I would say for the carrot, definitely use your smallest brush for that. I have a little bit of the orange paint left over, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. If not, you know how to mix up orange.
Yep. Did your orange dry a little? Your orange, did it dry a little bit over the course of the painting?
Yeah, but I had some because I mixed a lot of it. So
Okay.
if your orange did dry, that's because we're using acrylic paint. It dries fast. In the event that you have some left over because you mixed so much of it, I'm going to go ahead and use that. Sharpen my brush. I have a nice point. And some people don't say sharpen your brush, not sure why. I'm going to paint in.
You know, Allison, I have a question for you. Do you have a towel set aside somewhere where you dry your paintbrushes if you need to wet them for effect?
I should is the short answer. Yes, you should have something to blot with. I'm not the greatest about that because it's just one more thing to grab.
Right.
Yes, that's a great idea. You should have one. I just don't always get to it. Okay, so I painted in my carrot nose. I highlighted both of these. So I'm going to take a drop of white and add that to my orange. And just do a line of lighter orange across the top.
Oh, that's how you did that.
Yeah, super simple.
Super simple.
Same thing. I'm going to take a drop of my white, mix it into my sort of black I created, which is this kind of purpley sort of sepia, not black, but certainly what we wanted. And I'm just going to give like two little highlights in the eye.
Little dots.
Little dots. I'm going to go. I like how there's a little bit more of a white highlight around the edge of our snowman. So I'm going to kind of reinforce that. This is just some white that I have, but I have a lot of water in it. And it's coming around the edge. Remember, a snowball is very inconsistent on the edge, and this is when we want to kind of go for that. So I'm
good point.
hard to kind of reinforce the kind of lumps of the snowman, just like that. And then last pass, actually I want a bigger brush for that. I'm using my medium brush. Last pass to kind of hit the highlights on top of my tree snow.
Highlighting is just I mean, if I had to say the thing that I feel like I have learned that has really changed my art, it's highlighting.
It's all the fun, but requires all the patience because you got to do it at the end.
Right. You're right. But it also is that thing that when you're like, I don't know, is this something that, did I hit my mark? And then you add the highlights and you're like, well, yes, yep. I did.
You sure did. In ways, it's kind of a cheater's trick like that. You just give it a little bit more dimension by hitting some highlights in the end. All right, I'm looking at this. What I want to change, I want my clouds to be a touch lighter over here.
Oh, that looks great.
And this is, I think, a really warm, playful,
It is. It is. And it's something that it's,
Winter
yeah.
sunset painting. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sign this guy. I think we're done.
Man, I love it when you sign it because I know that is something that means that you feel like this is done.
This guy's done, and I'm the worst about this, but you know, I'm tackling my commitment issues and
Yeah, I know. I love it every time. I love it every time. It's like therapy, art therapy.
yes.
Well, you know what? As she signs her painting, guys, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. Today's Paint Wednesdays, and as everyone knows, we do a Journal Monday. So please join us on Monday for our Art Journal Monday, and then we always do a Paint on Wednesday. We invite you, please, if you're at home and you followed along, or if you want to rewatch the video that's on Facebook or YouTube, so you can finish your painting. When you're done, don't forget, we would love it if you would upload your finished product to our Facebook page. You can upload it wherever you like, but there is a subscriber page. Is that up, Al? I'm not even sure what we said.
We're accepting subscribers. Absolutely.
Okay.
You have to invite, we're making sure it's real people. And it's, yes, and you have to have a kit. And so it's an actual community member. So you have to ask to subscribe and then we will let you in. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. So we will see you again on Monday for an art journal drawing demo. And I don't want you guys to miss what's coming up because very soon here, we're going to be unboxing the actual art, but the Time for Art subscription box that you'll get every month in the mail. And we are so excited to show you guys what's in it. You know, like you've kind of seen the colors and everything, the paints and the brushes and whatnot, but we want to show you exactly everything that comes in the kit so you can see how prepared you're going to be to do all of these different paintings. So thank you so much for joining us. Allison, thank you for taking the time to paint this wonderful painting for us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we will see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend and happy holidays.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.